So what causes hearing loss? To answer this question, let's play a little game. Do you remember the game show Family Feud? Teams on Family Feud compete with each other by trying to come up with the top answers to survey questions for points. So we're going to play. Get your pen and paper again and see if you can come up with the top answers to the following survey questions. Here we go. What are the top 6 things that cause hearing loss? 1. Age. As we age, our hearing can diminish, similarly to other functions of our body. I need that hair back, please. Thank you. 2. Noise exposure. Noise exposure is a big cause of hearing loss. The younger generations today are going to experience hearing loss much sooner than you did. Anything louder than a hairdryer for an extended period of time can cause permanent hearing loss. From earbuds to convertible cars, noise can leave irreversible damage to the cochlea. 3. Injury. Head injuries can also cause damage to the structures in the ear and result in sudden hearing loss. 4. Earwax. Earwax buildup in the ear can cause hearing loss, but it is easily treated. 5. Infection can leave someone with permanent hearing loss. 6. Heredity. And yes, Grandpa Joe can pass on more than just his blue eyes. You may also be the unlucky recipient of his hearing loss gene. So look at this list. Could any of these apply to you, potentially making it difficult for you to hear the world normally? Hearing loss is one of the most common chronic disabilities today. If you think you're alone, you're not. Sadly, on average, it takes someone 7 to 10 years once they realize they have a hearing problem until they do something about it. So why do people wait so long? Let's get back to our game and see if you can figure it out. Name the top reasons people wait to do something about their hearing. You might be surprised at these. Get your pen and paper again and see if you can come up with the right answers. Survey says 1. Vanity. If your guess was vanity as the number 1 reason, you're right. Most people think that if they get a hearing aid, everybody will think they're old. Who wants to feel old at our age, right? There is still a stigma attached to hearing aids that if you buy or need one, you must be really old as well. It's not just older folks wearing hearing aids today. Here's the thing, most hearing aids are so tiny, no one would even notice you were wearing one. Think about this for a moment. What do you think is more obvious to people in general, a person's hearing loss or their hearing aids? Hearing loss is much more noticeable to people, not these tiny hearing aids. When you ask people to repeat themselves many times each day or listen to the TV so loud your neighbors can hear it, that is much more obvious than hearing aids. 2. The second reason people wait is that they don't realize it. How does someone not recognize they have hearing loss? It happens all the time, actually. Generally, it's because hearing loss comes on so gradually over the years, most people don't recognize the effects. Here's a funny story to illustrate how someone failed to recognize they had hearing loss. One day, Helen dragged her husband into a hearing clinic and said, "Can you test my husband Tom's hearing? He hasn't heard me in a decade." Very reluctantly, Tom agrees to the hearing test. During the exam, the surprised hearing specialist uncovers that Tom actually has normal hearing. Without disclosing the results of Tom's test to Helen or Tom, the specialist looks over at Helen and says, "Would you mind if I test your hearing too?" To which she indicates, "Sure, my hearing is great, but I've always wanted to be tested." Shortly into her exam, the specialist realizes that Helen has lost 70% of her hearing. After completing the exam, the specialist delivers the bad news to Helen, who begins to cry. Her husband Tom begins giggling and says, "See, I told you that you had a hearing problem. You thought it was me all these years." The specialist asks Helen, "Why are you crying?" To which Helen states, "I just realized I've been giving Tom a hard time for years about his hearing, and now I realize it was my hearing all along." Much like Helen, People don't often recognize that they have hearing loss because the onset is typically very slow. 3. Denial. Denial is a long, lonely road. The person with hearing loss is saying to the world, "My hearing isn't that important, and I don't care how it affects others." Sadly, hearing loss generally affects other people more than it does the person who is actually hearing impaired. 4. Negative comments. Sadly, some people have heard something negative from a friend or relative who wears hearing aids. It's unfortunate when someone who really needs hearing aids delays getting help because someone they know that has hearing aids has placed them in a dresser drawer at home rather than wearing them. 5. Trust. Not knowing who to trust is another reason people wait. With the amount of advertising we see on hearing aids, no wonder people are uncertain who to trust when it comes to better hearing. One advertisement says one thing, and another advertisement says something contradictory. If you see advertising that states something like, "Buy 2 hearing aids for the price of 1 hearing aid," or "Act now, hearing aids are 50% off this week only," please be very cautious. If it sounds too good to be true, it generally is. And you should never feel pressured to make a rash decision when buying hearing aids. Remember this, getting the wrong hearing aid is worse than never getting one at all. If you are waiting because of one of these 5 issues to reverse the effects of hearing loss, we can help. A hearing aid should not make you feel old. Instead, it will help you feel younger, more vibrant, and connected to the world. Spend some time learning about the new technologies available to correct nerve damage. They have changed so much in the last few years, it's amazing what hearing aids can do today. Click on segment 6 to learn the things you need to know before purchasing a hearing aid and taking the next step toward better hearing.